What is up, everyone? The podcast is back with a bang. The topics discussed today are very near and dear to my heart, and it was really exciting for me to listen to Rok's width and depth of understanding of the human body, mind, and soul. His knowledge and experience have been cultivated through going down the path of Western medicine and becoming a medical doctor, to then expanding to yoga and Ayurveda to better understand himself, his body, the people that he heals, and the world in general. So, tune in if you want to hear ways to increase energy in your body, advance spiritually, and cultivate more sexual energy. He also shares practices that transcend lovemaking into a spiritual experience for men and women. I'm excited. Let's go. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Art of Truth podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping us return to our true essence of vibrancy, vitality, love, and wholeness. My name is Aris, and my aim is to examine the perceptions and limiting beliefs that shape our reality and transcend them in order to create a life full of freedom and possibility. We will also be looking into the mind-body connection to uncover how imbalances in the mind manifest in the body, and vice versa. True health means wholeness, and wholeness has many dimensions that we tend to overlook in our current reality. I aspire to paint a holistic picture of what it takes to be in a state of this wholeness and in alignment with our unique creative expression. And I'm looking forward to learning along the way. So, before we jump into this episode, I'll leave you with this quote from Albert Einstein. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Rok, my man, officially welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, Aris. Thank you, Aris.
I'm very excited for this. So, would you like to start by sharing what Alchemy of Living is and what your role is
Sure.
in it?
Yeah. So Alchemy of Living is a school of authentic Tantra. So we teach an energy-based Tantra yoga, Tantric meditation. Obviously, in Tantra, there is also Tantric massage, Tantric sexuality, things like that. So we teach a comprehensive form of spiritual Tantra. And this is basically right now what we're offering. But the two people that are the main teachers in Alchemy of Living, which is my partner Mel and myself, we're also very much into healing. So I myself am a medical doctor already, and obviously I now study at the College of Ayurveda. After I completed Western medicine, I decided, well, this is not really my path. I want to do something else in life. So I went and started studying Ayurveda, which is the science that uses energy for healing. Yeah. So if I mentioned that Tantra is the science that uses energy for spiritual purposes, then Ayurveda is the science that uses energy for healing. So, basically Alchemy of Living is about energy, and our lives, mine and Mel's lives, are revolving around energy. Yeah. So, like I said, in the background, we're also studying a lot, reading ancient textbooks about energy healing, doing energy healing ourselves already with some massages and things like that, but obviously going deeper, also researching herbs and things like that. So I guess at some point, Alchemy of Living won't be just Tantra, but it'll also be Tantra and Ayurveda, and again, authentic forms of Ayurvedic healing. So that's a little bit about the Alchemy of Living.
Awesome. And could you share what led you down the path? What made you say, Western medicine might not be the way for me, and I need to explore a little bit deeper?
Yeah, sure. It was a kind of a combination of two things, I would say. There was a there's always an internal process to the things, right? So my internal process at that time was I was going through a lot of things, a lot of challenges in my life. And I realized that ultimately the solution to those challenges lies within. So, you know, a lot of people, they, especially when you're young and you have a lot of energy, you want to, you know, go out, meet with people, go out on the parties, do some, you know, cool stuff. But at some point I realized that's actually a distraction for me, you know, and that this kind of feeling of not knowing what this life is about for me will only get better if I really go into it. So once I started doing the internal process, I realized that I need to become spiritual. I need spirituality in my life. Yeah. So that led me to a path where I started looking into energy and spirituality and things like that. And then I discovered that yoga, like real authentic yoga, is actually about what I'm looking for. So I was very lucky because I found this yoga center right next to my flat where I used to live. And it was an authentic lineage of yoga coming from some Indian masters from the Himalayas. And when I went there, I met this Swami. She was an older lady, like around 70, but she looked 50, you know, so because she was so well preserved. Yeah. So she was the first one that actually then taught me, you know, real yoga, asanas, pranayama, mudra, bandha techniques. But also she then, because she was from a lineage of Ayurvedic doctors herself, she then started teaching me the science of Ayurveda, so that we have, for example, energy points on the body that we can use for healing, that we have different herbs that we can use for healing. She told me her stories, how she treated people with like severe diseases and how they got healed. And, you know, she said, you as a doctor, you know, like you think you know it, but actually you don't. And I was luckily humble enough to really follow that. So that was kind of like my internal process. Externally, I also saw that Western medicine is not really geared towards ultimate healing. What I mean by that is, for example, you see people coming to a doctor and the doctor gives them medicine based on a protocol, doesn't even look at the patient as a whole, but only looks at this one symptom and says, oh, that's a problem. Whereas in fact, symptom is not a problem. Symptom is a good thing because it tells you, you know, red alarm, red alarm, something is not okay, you know, and we should be appreciating symptom and going deeper into the reason why the symptom is there. But the Western medicine isn't doing that. And what it does, instead of healing the reason, it starts to suppress the symptom. They say they heal. And yes, the symptom might get healed, but ultimately the disease itself, or the imbalance in the deeper layers of the biochemistry, of the tissues, of the body, is still there. And when I saw that, I realized that Western medicine actually, in some way, serves as a buffer for people not to change. Yeah, because in Ayurveda, when you have a disease, it ultimately comes down to your lifestyle choices, your relationships with people around you, even perhaps relationships with your parents, now relationship with your partner, with your kids, stuff like that, emotional problems. Yeah, like even if you look at the Buddhist medicine, they knew that actually greed, anger, lust, these are all emotions that can lead towards a disease. And when you trace diseases back to those things, you will see that actually these emotions play a role. Obviously, diet is a big one. Yeah, and then so on and so forth. So Western medicine addresses nothing of that. It just suppresses the symptom, and therefore it makes the person think that it's healthy, but it's actually not. And if you take it to a societal level, it actually creates a sick society because it preserves and deepens the sickness in it. Yeah. So I didn't agree with that on external level as well. So those two combinations of internal path and external, seeing what's going on, made me realize, okay, I want to go into Tantra and into Ayurveda.
That is a beautiful answer. I really loved the internal justification as well, because it's not only a system that's flawed, but it's what does that mean for you? And this was something really interesting about what you said about suppressed emotions or certain emotions leading to certain diseases. And that is something I have really been interested in the past year. Are there any patterns of certain emotions leading to certain diseases? Is there any correlation between certain things?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very interesting topic. You know how we have anatomy, physical anatomy. So there is the biceps, there is the triceps,
Yeah.
and we know how it works. In the same way, actually, there is emotional anatomy. So there are certain emotions that are connected with certain parts of the body, actually, and then they lead to certain behaviors, and they could also potentially lead to certain diseases. And that's where Ayurveda comes in. And Ayurveda says, for example, that there's three main energies in the body: the fire, the wind, and you could say the earth. And if we take fire, for example, yes, so some people have a lot of that fire. In medicine, we call them type A personalities. They are ambitious, they are driven, they have a lot of willpower, they're quite courageous. But because of that fire, that can also lead towards some diseases. Like fire is what? Fire is overheating. So these kind of people, they overheat their internal system. Their liver gets taxed. So a lot of times they have problems with their livers, with their stomach acid, because fire, acid and fire, they kind of go together. So they produce a lot of acid. They may get this kind of hunger pangs where they become angry. Like the word hangry comes from this type of people, where they're like, I have so much of this fire, if I don't eat something right now, I'll just get angry. Yeah. And therefore that can lead to too much acid being produced. So like problems with stomach acid, like GERD and things like that are connected with it. Obviously, in the long run, these people can develop, for example, just due to the energy that they resonate with, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
and heart disease. So angina pectoris then, or even they can, go all the way to heart infarction and things like that. Then if we take, for example, the element of air, people who have a lot of air element in them, they tend to be more communicative. Their nervous system is very stimulated and active, but because of that, they burn a lot of energy, and therefore they tend to be a bit more skinny. They might start feeling, because they lack this fatty tissue, and fatty tissue is connected with what? With producing hormones. So they lack a little bit of that hormones, a little bit of that, groundedness that, for example, even the sexual hormones produce. Therefore, because of that, they can actually be feeling a bit ungrounded, feeling like they lack certain libido. So they might be daydreaming a lot and not being actually able to put those thoughts into action. So they tend to develop anxiety, depression, things like that. If you know the Greek Galen, the Greek physician Galen, he said that there's temperaments like melancholic, choleric, sanguinic. Melancholic would be a Vata person, yeah. Choleric, someone very ambitious, would be Pitta person,
Okay.
the fire type. And then we have the third dosha, as we call it in Ayurveda, the Kapha dosha, which would be actually phlegmatic. Yeah, so someone who has a lot of mucus. So these people, they tend to accumulate things. They tend to be very prone to eat a little bit too much. They tend to be more sturdy, so opposite from airy types of people. They tend to have problems in their lymphatic system. They tend to be obese. They tend to have diabetes. They tend to have all sorts of issues from that. So like there is definitely a correlation between a specific emotion, say for example, like I said, anger, leading to a specific organ failure or disease or things like that. Yeah.
That's a fascinating topic. And what's really great out of it is the correlation that you made between, for example, a phlegmatic person leading, or like phlegmatic physical symptoms leading to phlegmatic personality symptoms, as above, so below.
Exactly.
This is
Exactly.
yeah, carry on. You want to expand?
Yeah, because because you think, see, this is the thing. If a person produces, this is epigenetics, really, right? So some people, they will have bigger bones, they will have bigger, broader bodies, and they will produce more of the mucus, for example, in the body, which is a good thing for some things. But over some period of time, they can actually start accumulating that mucus. But that's their physiology. But what about their mind? Their mind will also tend to resonate with, because genes really are somehow connected with frequencies, right? So their mind will also attune to the frequency of mucus. So in their minds, they also tend to be more laid back, more you could say a bit more lazy sometimes, greedy, because what is the mucus? Mucus just, everything sticks to it. So they emotionally, like if you take those people, they will remember, they will take a little bit longer to remember things. Like a good animal example is elephant. Like elephant takes longer to remember things, but then once it remembers, it will stick with them. So they have a very good long-term memory. But that's the problem, because if you do something like that they don't like, they will remember it and they will keep bringing it up to you. Maybe you have a relative, who always says, Aris, I remember like 10 years ago when you said this to me. And it's like, yeah, okay, I was just in the moment, so what? But that's how they are. This is the type of people, and that's where they can actually go into imbalance. Yeah. If they eat, because like attracts like, these people who have a lot of mucus, they will tend to eat these kind of foods. Yeah. And then they just accumulate and accumulate and resonate more and more with this and become more lazy, more sluggish, more depressed. So if they don't do that, if they do the opposite and they actually start to live a lifestyle to decrease these mucus qualities, and to change their minds and to be less attached to things, then they can be really happy and healthy. Yeah.
What are some ways that you can bring a person like that, a phlegmatic person, back to balance? Is it bringing more fire?
Yes, definitely. So one thing to do is increasing the fire, because the fire will burn the mucus. The fire will burn, like for example, we had a student who had that more of a bigger body, a lot of a bit more on the, no, she wasn't obese, but a little bit, more bigger lady. And she increased the fire. So what happened is her digestion improved. Her digestion got purified. There was more of the enzymes coming in, less of the mucus. She changed her diet and she lost, I think in a half a year, like 11 or 12 kilos. So she also fasted a lot, which is great for these kind of people. They don't like fasting, but if they do fast, that's perfect, because they have the they have the means to fast. Yeah, they won't be eaten alive if they fast. So yeah.
Gotcha. Since we're on the topic, I'm just exploring my own curiosity. What about fasting when it comes to someone who's more airy? Is that a good practice?
Yeah, they resonate with it a lot, but it's not a good thing. This typical thing of like resonates with like attracts like. Yeah. So someone who is airy will tend to attract these kind of things in their life. They, for example, they won't like eating like warm, nourishing foods. No, they will go for salads. They will go for crackers. They will want fasting, which will actually increase more of that qualities that are eventually going to cause them disease. Yeah. So yes, for these people, I wouldn't recommend fasting, at least not too much. For them, I would actually recommend the opposite, which is what they don't like, which is discipline, daily regular meals, warm foods, sweet taste, not as in sweets, but as in, like sweet potatoes and things like that, to actually counter their nature.
Gotcha. I'll make a comment and say that this is why I love the science, because it does not prescribe this and this. Everyone has a unique composition which changes over time. So it's not about doing the intermittent fasting diet. It's not about going vegan or going paleo or going that. It's about assessing what you are at that given moment and then seeing where you're out of balance and treating that. And that's why I love this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on something that you mentioned earlier. It's about libido and energy. And a realization that I've had this year is that energy levels and self-realization or spiritual evolution go hand in hand. And I think this is where yoga and Ayurveda relate. Like yoga wants us to be one with the universe, or yoga wants us to evolve. And Ayurveda says that this is not possible if we're anxious or if our digestion is out of place and we are not assimilating anything. So, leading to my question, if you think of us humans as a biological battery where 1 is death and 10 is like an enlightened master, I would say that the majority of the population is around 6 or 7, which there are like signs of vitality, some positive emotions, but there is also a lot of chronic pain, a lot of potentially mental suffering. What are some ways that one can increase their biological energy, their libido, their life force to move from a 6 or 7 to a 7 or an 8, which is like true well-being and more love, unconditional love?
Yeah, well, here you are actually opening up a couple of concepts. So one is the amount of energy, yeah? And the amount of energy does not necessarily relate to being balanced or to the level of consciousness, yeah? So let's address them, all 3 of them, separately. So first is the amount of energy, yeah? And when we speak about vitality, in yogic terms, we have to speak about energy which is more connected with the lower 3 chakras, because in yoga we know there's 7 energy centers which correlate to the 7 levels of consciousness, yeah? So if you want to develop vitality, then you would have to bring more energy to the lower 3 chakras, and we have techniques and practices for that, but obviously the simplest way is by diet. And here, if I give you a couple of advices, for Ayurveda says that one of the things that is important is not just the quantity of foods that we're eating, but it's also to have our digestive system detoxed. Yeah. If you imagine you have like large intestine, right? Large intestine is like absorbing all the nutrients, like the trees, the roots of the tree, they absorb all the nutrients from the earth. And if your large intestine is stuck with all the, I don't know, shitty foods or whatever, then it won't be able to really properly absorb. It will only absorb 50%, yeah? Not 100. So that's why Ayurveda does all these detox protocols for large intestine, for small intestine, for stomach, for all the organs and stuff, because it wants to know that once the food comes in, that actually it can get really absorbed and then converted into energy, into why not even the sexual energy, the libido, to have enough of this stamina to go about your daily tasks and whatever you want to do with your life. Yeah. So that's energy. And when it comes to energy, obviously Ayurveda will also give you some herbs to boost energy on the lower 3 chakras. There's many different ways to tackle that. But energy alone doesn't necessarily, like I said, mean that you will be balanced. Yeah. So to be balanced, you need to balance this energy, because energy has a different qualities to it. Yeah. If we go to the level now of more like the Chinese medicine, they will say that the yin and the yang, right? So energy can be absorbing in, or it can be going outward. Yeah. So, or it can be too feminine, or it can be masculine. So you can balance, you have to know how to balance those two. And there's array of techniques to do that. So in yoga, one of the best is actually meditation, because with meditation, you bring the head, the brain hemispheres into balance. And therefore you do bring the feminine and the masculine aspects to some degree into balance. And then, as you know, there's other techniques as well that we can do to enhance some aspects. And then there is the third topic, which is the level of consciousness. Yeah. So once you have that energy, you want to go towards like being very spiritual, maybe enlightened, you know, having that 10 out of 10 experience of life. How you do that? That's where you have to take the energy from those lower chakras. So you have now you have the vitality, but you have to take that vitality and start channeling it up along the chakras towards these higher chakras, because the higher you go, the more spiritual the experiences and overall your being becomes. Yeah. So these chakras are like portals, like gateways. And the highest chakras, the Sahasrara, is actually like a gateway to God. This is where you really reach enlightenment. So how you do that? Obviously by training to bring energy higher up. Yeah. But here it's again where a lot of people have certain blockages and the energy won't go like to the heart, for example. So they might be feeling closed on their heart, not able to love, not able to receive love. And even though they have a lot of vitality, they don't have love in their lives. So again, they have to like unblock this chakra, they have to energize it, they have to start surrendering to it, and so on and so forth. A lot of women, for example, have a blockage on throat. So that's why they even have problems with thyroid gland. Which is self-expression, things like that. They have to learn how to bring energy to the throat, and so on and so forth. So this is then like a process where you're actually taking all that vital energy and taking it up, and in that evolving your consciousness as a human being towards being really more spiritual. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, you added more context, as I have not really. I didn't come to the realization that it's like two separate things, but what I've noticed in myself is that the more energy I have available, the more I can let it flourish and do good things. Because when there's no energy, it's just dullness, sluggishness. Even I'm gonna use the D word, depression.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something to that?
Of course.
So one of the things here, when you mention, and for a lot of people, this is the case, is again, we come to that which you mentioned before, the fire, you know. If you look at the chakras, most of the people who are a bit sluggish, depressed, have some issues, it actually could be traced down to second chakra, which is Svadhisthana, which is the emotional but also sexual center of the human being. So it is there where, and I've noticed that even in myself, it is there where we have a lot of this vital energy, but it can go sideways for us. What I mean by that, for example, your mind processes certain event, and instead of processing it towards a positive, you think of it as a negative, and then you have there an emotion there which is negative, and that starts pulling you down. Yeah. So that's one way of dealing with this, is to change your perception of emotions, right? But yogis would say you can deal with emotions and try to work it out, or you can actually work it out on an energy level. So if you have too much energy on that second chakra, you just have to pull it up to the third chakra, which is the closest to the fire chakra, and then you won't you won't have emotions anymore. You will be more like fiery. You will be, okay, I was depressed 3 minutes ago, but I did some practices, I built my fire, bam, let me go and do this, what I'm supposed to do now. Yeah. Or there is even another way, because it is also a sexual center, and a lot of people have obstacles, problems, blockages around sexual energy. If you allow yourself to feel sexual energy, if you feel aroused, most people, you know, when they feel aroused, they go like, oh, I need to have sex, whatever, I need to lose this energy, you know, for men, I need to like masturbate or something. But for tantrics, it's actually not. Like, for example, I will feel a little bit down, and then I can just, in my head, I can click the sexual energy, you know, or I can maybe, you know, you do a picture, a scene, or, oh, I'm imagining like seeing some beautiful lady or something, and the energy will come up, and suddenly I'm aroused, but I will actually not, you know, I will not be obsessed about, you know, letting go of this energy, but I'll actually take it up. So that's one way also of dealing it, which is by arousing sexual energy, and then, you know, your whole body is like, whoa, okay, I'm aroused, let now go and do my practice, for example. And this is actually something, if you look at this famous book by Napoleon Hill, he talks about how to become successful, and I think in 11th chapter he mentions the secret of sexual energy, and he says whatever your goal is, if you infuse it with the sexual energy, you know, say for example, my goal is I will read this book. If you infuse it with the sexual energy, it will become that much more attractive, that much more powerful. It will manifest quicker. Yeah. So I found that a very good way to combat any kind of laziness, depression, or things like that.
Beautiful. For anyone listening, that book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. By the way, what you said about the second chakra really resonates with me, as I've had the sea disease that is taking the world right now, and I'm joking. And it took away my sense of smell and taste, which led to, I'm gonna call it, a loss of energy in that second chakra, and that lack of enjoyment.
Yes.
That just lack of beauty. Can I use that?
Sure. Yeah, but it's also, you know, because the symptom that you're describing is connected with nose, right?
Yeah.
So nose and smell, this is actually an attribute of the first chakra, Muladhara.
Yeah.
So this is the human battery. So if you have problems there, I would assume you're also being a bit depleted from this disease on the battery level. So like your energy is just right now a bit low, which is also understandable. By the way, there are solutions for that. So I can maybe do that privately with you afterwards. But yeah, there are, in Ayurveda, we have special oils, herbal oils, that are used, you put them in the nose. They're made for nose specifically, and they purify all this area of the nostrils and of the lower, like the brain itself, you know, so they're recommended for these kind of symptoms. So yeah, and they work on the central nervous system very strongly as well.
Yeah, I would love that, and I would love to document my experience as well. It has come back. I'm about 85%, 90% back, but I know there's still a way to go. And since optimization is the goal, then of course.
Yes. Well, and there's, if I can use like this opportunity, you know, to just say a couple of words. Did you hear about ashwagandha, the herb? Yes. So a lot of people know about it. Ashwagandha is good for building vitality, for getting back that strength and stuff like that. Well, in Ayurveda, they took the root of ashwagandha and they put it in a alcohol solution to really like take all of its energy out and put it into that alcohol solution. So instead of taking powder, which has some effect, but a lot of it doesn't get absorbed really, you can take special, which is called ashwagandha rishtam, which is a special, it's a bit like a liquor. And you take, you know, like after you eat, you take a little bit, you drink it. It's very sweet, very, very nourishing, has a lot of energy to it. And then you will regain, you will feel like the effects much stronger. That'll help you get back.
Awesome. I would love to try that. Yeah, I think we completed a good circle around Ayurveda. There is obviously a vast amount of knowledge inside your head and experience that we can tap into, but we just do not have the time. So I would like to move into masculinity, and especially tantric masculinity, and I'm excited to learn about this from you. So there's so much to say about this topic, but what do you think? Should we start about explaining the two energies, the feminine and the masculine, and what are the attributes that constitute each one of them?
Yes. So the feminine and the masculine energy, obviously we all have feminine and masculine within us. So the feminine energy is more yielding, soft, receptive. Women are more in touch with it normally. So if you look at how women behave, they are scanning the whole room with the whole of their being. Yeah, they are very receptive. They will feel the room. They will you know, they will know from 10 meters away, you know, if someone is confident or if someone is sad or someone, whatever the feeling is. That's the feminine aspect. But then you have the masculine aspect, which is the opposite from this yielding soft energy, which is not so receptive, but it's more emissive. It's about control. It's about projection of the energy outwards. It's a little bit insensitive. And if you look at, again, the qualities of the energy, the feminine is more cool, cold, yeah, whereas the feminine is more hot. It's more like fiery. Yeah? And this is also, if you want to take it to the level of lovemaking, this is also the difference in approach to sexuality. The feminine needs to be aroused slowly, like the Taoists compare it to the pot of water that you heat slowly. You know, you need to arouse her whole body. You need to work on arouse her emotionally, intellectually. You need to maybe, you know, do 45 minutes of foreplay, an hour of foreplay. Why not? And then the feminine slowly starts to get aroused and open up, and then she's like, wow, you know, like a fire of sexual energy. Whereas with men, for us, is 0 or 1. Yeah. So yes,
Yeah.
we are more fiery, right? So
Yeah.
and that's where the problem, for example, in the sexuality comes, because a man is 0-1, and then, you know, if he becomes fiery too quickly, the water will just take it and it will be over quickly. Yeah? So a lot of men, when they make love to a woman, they will not be able to really work with her energies, and they will, I don't know, lose control. They will ejaculate in the first 5-10 minutes, and that won't really satisfy the woman. So because they don't know that how to work with the water first and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. So apart from extending the foreplay and potentially including a massage there and some sensitivity to play with the energies, what are some other tips that you can give to someone that wants to have that full experience?
To a man, for example?
To a man, yes.
Yeah. So for men, the most important thing is to, there's a lot of things for men, I can tell you. One of the most important things that I've learned for men is to, men are really obsessed with their genitals energetically, yes? So they are programmed in that way through pornography, through masturbation, even through other societal ways. So what I would say to the men is, women are not like that. women actually, they need a whole body experience. So you should really start to take your focus from penetrative sex in itself to a more holistic erotic experience with women. Yeah. So try to, yes, why not try to give her a massage and really pay attention to what her body is saying to you. Like many times you will feel there is like a pressure in her belly. Ask her, like, can I put my hand on your belly? You know, what do you feel there? And she'll say to you, I'm actually feeling sad. Oh, okay. So, and she might start crying, and she might start giggling, laughing. She might say, oh, suddenly I feel really relaxed with you because you're the first man that actually like touched me and actually cared for me, made love to me in the sense, yeah, without even taking your clothes off. Yeah. So like number one thing is that what I would say is take that attention to the whole body of the woman. Number two is slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah, women need, I would say you can give yourself a challenge that every time you make love to your lady, do a 30-minute foreplay minimum. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but actually you'll see, you'll start enjoying it. And a lot of men, this is again the problem of focusing too much on the genitals. They're desensitized in the other areas of the body. But I can tell you, if you start bringing energies up to the higher areas of the body, which you can do through yoga, then you will actually start enjoying, you know, like rubbing, like just rubbing your chest against her, or just, you know, being touched on your, I don't know, neck, or she will touch you on your leg and you'll be like, wow, it's amazing. Yeah. So like that will resensitize you. So that's the third thing, which is to, in you, focus on your whole body and not so much again on your genitals. What else? Stop watching porn, preferably. Or if you can't, then join me for my yogic journey and I'll tell you what to do. There are ways to turn it around without like too much suffering. Maybe you, Aris, want to point me. What else do you think?
I think you covered most of it. What I would say from my experience is to exactly what you said: stop what's important, stop focusing on the external or on a picture, and rather sensitize yourself so that you can be present in the moment instead of looking for an escape of that energy, looking for an escape of that tension, and learn to circulate that energy in your body. And the more one can build up his capacity to hold more energy in their body and circulate that properly without releasing it in any way, the more pleasure comes from that in both of the parties, considering this is a heterosexual encounter.
Yes, and in Tantra, men learn how to fully control the sexual energy. And what I mean by that is they learn, like Tantric men don't ejaculate. Yeah, so like it's not a thing. They learn to separate the orgasm from ejaculation, because they, even if you look at neurologically, these are two different separate pathways. You can choose to ejaculate, but you don't have to. Orgasm is something completely else. And orgasm is a spiritual experience. Why are we chasing orgasm? Because in orgasm, actually, the plus and the minus, the polarity of this universe, they go together and they create like an opening that is like the void. So it's like a God coming in and it's like saying hello, you know. But the problem, yes, the problem is that for most people, this orgasmic experience is so short. It's like bye, ciao, yeah. Whereas actually, you can take this orgasm and you can, and I'm speaking from experience, you can extend it in time. It can be a 10-minute orgasm. It can be felt in your heart. So you can extend it in time, but you can also extend it in your body. You can bring it to your heart. You can bring it to your third eye. You can meditate while having an orgasm. Yeah. So it's very interesting, because even in our Tantra massage courses, for example, when we teach, the massage, and we teach how to take the sexual energy to the heart, for example, and you will see some people will have these orgasmic experiences in the heart, and some people might even have like a, there was one story where we had a lady who was we called her orgasmic machine, I think it's like 5 to 10 minutes of orgasm just from the massage. She was like, like this. And the energy was coming to her heart, and she was like screaming from joy. And this is beautiful to see. And as a man, the first time you see it, you're like, oh my God, that exists. I didn't know that exists. So, but it does. And when you learn to control your sexual energy fully, you treat woman differently, because the woman is not anymore like an object of you getting rid or pressure with. Yeah. Now the woman is actually something you're like, it's a, it's a special thing. It's beautiful. You really can go very deep with her. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes more of a dance of the two energies. On that, what does it mean to show up as a solar man? What does it feel like within the man, and what emotions does it arouse in women?
To be a solar?
Yeah, like a more of a yang man in the tantric way.
Yeah. So number one, when you become more solar, more yang, more masculine, it doesn't take away the ability to feel. You feel things, and actually you have to feel that, because a lot of men think that to be masculine is to be this kind of like, I don't feel anything, I'm just locked in, I'm like tough. No, you feel. In the tantra, you feel things very strongly, because you have to, because by feeling things, you're tuning into different energies. So for example, I will feel that a lady is sad, yeah, but that doesn't mean that I get overwhelmed by sadness. And that's then where the masculine aspect comes in. I feel she's sad, but I can be okay. I feel she's sad. Maybe I'm going to tell her a joke, so she starts laughing. Or maybe I'll ask her, are you sad? I understand. Or maybe I can do something with it. And that's where this kind of like what I call the aspect of gentleman comes in. What is a gentleman? It's truly a strong man who feels, but is able to control himself in all situations. Or maybe the lady is feeling really fired up. Yeah. And you feel that she's like really fiery, maybe she's angry. And again, you can control this energy in yourself, and you can respond it. And this is how this element of masculinity comes in, is that you feel things, but you control your response, and you control yourself during these situations. So for me, how I changed experientially, when women used to be emotional, I was emotional with them, and I was like overwhelmed with them. Or when women were rejecting me, for example, I was upset. Or when I didn't even feel them or something. So or when I was having my issues in life, I would let those issues take me away from what I was doing. But when I started building my yang through Tantra, I didn't allow those circumstances to sway me anymore. Yeah. So yes, things are hard. Okay, so what? I can feel them. Okay, so what? Let's work with them. So you start changing how you approach to things, and you start controlling these energies rather than escaping them. Yeah? And that's the ultimate masculinity, is when you feel the energies, but you control them fully. Yeah? I can give you another example, is sexuality. Yeah. So you feel that the woman is about to have an orgasm, but you control her orgasm, and you actually take it to her heart. Yeah. That's masculinity. Not that I'm this big buff, not that I have anything against being physically strong. I love it. But when it comes to being masculine in tantric sense, that's masculinity. Yeah. To be able to control the energy and be present with it.
What are some ways that someone can cultivate this? Can I call it strong sense of being rooted in their center and not being just not being swayed away by whatever emotions life throws on them.
Yes. Practice in discipline. So for me, it is about tantric practice. And actually, if I'm honest, for me, it's also about my partner, because my partner does provide both the substratum that catches me if I fall,
Okay.
but also a feedback mechanism that tells me, where I made the mistake. So that's very valuable. And I think that's important for us as men, we would like to have that in our lives from our partners. So maybe that's a little bit of a feedback to women, and to men as well, what to cultivate in a relationship. You need to be supporting your partner, but also holding them accountable at all times. So that's one thing that's really important for me. But then ultimately, the spine is my spiritual practice. So for example, I still have moments where I go wobbly, where things are hard, and as you grow, the tests become bigger. So these things are there, but I train myself constantly to go back to the practice. And then when I do tantric practice, for example, I work with energy. So I start to shift the energy in me, and then I respond differently to those challenges. And by that, I grow. So instead of seeing something collapsing me, I go back to practice. I take it as a kind of like an outside world saying to me, no, evolve. Now you're being pressured. I grow, and then I respond back to it. So that's a very technical answer, I guess.
It's a beautiful answer. It leads me to the question of what can a man use as a compass? Is it the challenges? From what you said, it could be the challenge that life throws at him so that he can use this opportunity to grow. But is there also any sort of feeling or any sort of way of being that we can use as a compass in our way as a man?
Yes, our hearts. Our hearts are the compass for men and women, but for men specifically. Listen to your heart. The mind will say many things. The genitals will say many things. But the heart is really the true compass in life. It will lead us to places where we will really be happy. So I would say that.
And is that connected with the way that one can stop living in fear and tap into their heart potential?
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. Even if you look at the lion heart, which is the courage, it's connected with the heart. So like some kind of courage comes from the heart, because if, from what I kind of learned from this path, if you live from the heart, you don't do things for yourself anymore so much. You do things because they have to be done, because it is ultimately the good to be done. Yeah. So there you kind of lose yourself a little bit, and therefore you lose the fear. But when it comes to fear, I would also say that fear is just like I talked about feeling women, but controlling it. I also still, many times, especially in the last year, I do feel fear myself as well. So it's not that fear goes away. It's just that you start to control it and not suppress it, but actually allow the fear to pervade you, feel it fully. There were times, Aris, I was like shaking. I went downstairs and I was shaking with fear because of different things in my life. And I just realized it's okay, let it shake, feel what it is, and let the fear teach you, but don't let it consume you. Just feel it. And the moment you stop being afraid of fear, like the moment you accept it, I think you transform it. So Yeah, I would say living from the heart, it definitely eliminates fear to some degree, but for me at least, there still are times when there is a lot of fear. It's just not to fight it, but to actually accept it, because it is teaching you something. It's there for a reason.
Yeah. Can I repeat what you said? The moment you accept it is the moment you transform it. And that is a very big realization. Yeah. What is something that fills you personally with energy and makes you jump out of bed in the morning to go after it?
So what gets me up in the morning? My alarm clock. And most of the times, actually, it's a cat that gets me up in the morning. He wakes me. He has to be fed. He has to be taken down to the garden. So he's really awesome cat. I love him, and he really charges my day up with come on, take me out, feed me. So that's what gets me up. Honestly, but if you're asking what really drives me to get up in the morning, as in my life purpose and goals, it's an interesting question for me, something I haven't thought about. I would say ultimately it's to challenge myself, to tackle the daily challenges, to grow, to figure this life out, to get to that next thing that needs to be done, and to show up, because what is sleep? You sleep and you can hide from life in sleep, or you can show up in life. So I guess for me, it's about showing up. It's about things that are perhaps not super comfortable, but you have to do them. So that's that's the challenges that are kind of making me get up and do them and get into that fire energy. So that would be my answer.
And my last question for you, since this is the Art of Truth podcast, what does it mean to live in truth for you?
Radicality, being radical. With my partner, we have a very honest, radical relationship with a lot of truth. I decided that truth ultimately is connected with my masculinity. If I'm really masculine, I'll be truthful, and if I'll be truthful, I will be also accountable. I will not put myself in positions that I can't fulfill the promises. Yeah. Truth for me is connected with masculinity, radicality, nobleness, and accountability. Yeah.
Brother, thank you very much for this. That was amazing.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be part of it.
I love it.